Hey, what's going on everyone? In this video, we're going to be looking at the Tangzu Waner, Kiwi Cadenza, and the Tin Hi-Fi C3. Let's start off with the build, cable, and fit. Build quality-wise, they're all on par with each other. They all have this shell going on. I don't think any of them are like perfect or have a better build than each other. And then cable, these two both have a pretty similar cable. It's thin and flimsy. And the C3 has the best cable, the most premium, really good cable here. So yeah, that's just the build and cable. And onto the fit, I think this Kiwi ears, it's a little too like rounded here and thick. So it's hard to get a good fit. And then the Waner has a really good fit. It just works out somehow. And then the C3 also has a decent fit because it has this mold here. So overall, I'd say in terms of fit, I like the Waner and the C3, and then I'd put this in third place. So yeah, those are the aesthetic side of things. Now let's talk about the sound quality. So starting off with the bass, the Tangzu Waner has a really tight, precise, and punchy bass. So when you're listening to songs that have like a beat to them, like this is very tight, precise, and controlled. It sounds correct, the Waner. It just sounds really correct, how it should sound. Nothing sounds off. And the bass never gets in the way of anything. It's always in the background, clean, clear, just amazing. Amazing bass. And then the Kiwi Cadenza. The Cadenza has more of like a very soft, pillowy bass. It's not really punchy. It doesn't have heft. It's like bass light. Like really bass light. So this is the most bass light out of any of these other IEMs. And that's not necessarily a bad thing if that's what you want. But for me, it was just too little bass. And then the C3, this IEM has really good bass. It's almost bouncy. It has good punch, good heft. So in terms of the bass quantity or the bass amount, the C3 has the most bass. And it has some mid bass, so you get those rumbles. And yeah, really good bass. So if you just want good bass, then get the C3. Or if you want like a good amount of it. Because these two, the Waner sounds a little clean in the bass. Like it's not too boosted. But the C3 has a more boosted bass. So when you're listening to Schoolboy Q Man of the Year or Hulu by Pierre Bourne, this is obviously very bass light. And then the Waner has a really good, clean, tight, precise punch. Just the right amount of bass. And then the C3 has the most big bass. Like immersive and clean. And I think the mid bass probably helps with that extra bass presence. And then onto the mid-range. So starting off with the Waner, the mid-range is really excellent on the Waner. It's forward, never shouty, clean, clear, comparable to more expensive IEMs. The tonality here is just spectacular in the mid-range. When you're listening to voices, it sounds very lifelike, engaging, just amazing. And then for, let's say, female voices, this IEM just shines. Just pops. So you hear a lot of those breath textures in the voices and the treble harmonics. And you get very good inflections. Yeah, really, really good. I can't really fault it. And then the mid-range here, it has a little bit of that metallicness going on. It doesn't sound the most correct or the most natural. It's on the little bit, it has a, what do you call it? Like, it's not shouty, it's like a little recessed. And then it's like thin. So for male voices, this lacks like a heft. A heft and a punch. Yeah, it just lacks that weightiness in the vocals. It sounds a little thin, recessed. So I'm not the biggest fan of that on the Cadenza. And then the C3 has that mid bass, so you get more of a fuller sound. It's clean, forward. It has a little more warmth. So if you want a little more warmth and fullness in the voices, I think the C3 does that better because of the mid bass. That's the only reason why. It adds this warmth and heft to the voices, where the Waner sounds a little more on the clean side without any colorations with the sound. So yeah, that's the voice side of things. So for female vocals, I think the Waner is the best, no doubt, no question about that. But if you want more fullness, more thickness with the male voices, the C3 is better. And then the Cadenza, it just sounds thin and recessed. So yeah, that's how they sound. Onto the treble. So the treble extension on the Waner is very, very good. I hear those micro nuances in the voices very well. A lot of breath-like textures. And really good amounts of air while being smooth. For the most part, yeah, the Waner could be maybe a little bit smoother when I'm listening to voices. It's not like the most refined, but it's pretty damn close. And then the treble on the Cadenza, to me, it sounded a little too metallic-y. Just sharp, a little brittle, zingy. I wouldn't even call it zingy, it just sounded more metallic. So when I'm listening to those same voices, it has this extra sound. And it's not even sibilance, it's just like metallic texture to it. So because of that, you don't get a sense of a good breath-like texture or airiness in the voices. Sounds a little more on the sharper side, not as refined or close to the source. And then the C3 for female voices sounds really good. The treble smooth for the most part. I'd say the treble is slightly smoother maybe on the C3 compared to the Waner. But in terms of hearing inflections well and that very clear sound, that like cold air of breeze in that voice, I'd take the Waner because of that. And then, yeah, so like, I guess the treble could be a little smoother here. But then you might sacrifice that texture in the voices. And then the treble here could be a little more pronounced. So it could be as good as the Waner. So yeah, and then soundstage and imaging wise, none of these are anything to ride home about. They're all okay. It's really, really hard to discern which one's better in the soundstage and imaging department. However, when I'm listening to Two Steps from Hell, Victory, and Never Give Up on Your Dreams, to me the Waner sounded the most correct in the soundstage and imaging department. Where the C3, I don't get that much height. It doesn't sound that tall. And then the Cadenza, because of that metallicness, it kind of detracts from the overall listening experience, where none of that is ever going to happen on the Waner. And then technical performance wise, because the Waner sounds the most correct, I think the Waner has the best technical performance. So I think Tangzu just hit a home run with this IEM. Just sounds really, really good. Without even considering price, it just sounds pretty spot on. Where the Cadenza could have that metallicness, being bass light, thin, kind of, and could lack weight. And then the C3, good bass, good mids, clean and forward, and sometimes the C3 could be too forward. So overall, for my preferences, I'll actually take the Waner in first place. It's that good. The Waner is an amazing IEM. And in second place, I'll put the C3 because it has a really, really good bass sound. Good upper mid-range, treble smooth. Maybe it's a little too forward, but other than that, second place. And then third place, I'd put the Cadenza in. The Cadenza just could sound too sharp, too metallic-y. The bass is too light. And for voices, it could sound a little thin, lacks weight. And for female voices, it could be just too metallic, even on properly recorded songs. So yeah, here we go. 1, 2, and 3. So the most correct sounding is the Waner. And then this one, C3, Cadenza. So hopefully you guys found this helpful. And take care, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.